A very warm welcome to today's session. So I am discussing the principles, the principle 2. I have discussed the principle 1 in the previous video. So you must follow certain things, certain principles to develop a nurturing environment which is best suitable for your children. So now in my last session I've told you that in the first principle you should always keep in mind that you have to believe that your child is inherently good, capable and trustworthy. Now I'm going to discuss another principle, the second principle. You should always keep in mind that limits and consequences teach children wisdom and responsibility. So let me explain this principle with a detailed example. See, parents exercise authority by setting limits or allowing children to learn from consequences. For example, if you don't come for lunch at home timely, you will stay hungry, or I am not going to serve you. Another example, if you forget doing homework, then your teacher is going to ask for it, or it will affect your grades. So what doesn't work is getting mad at them or feeling overly responsible where your child is not doing certain things your way. So we have to allow them to have experienced these consequences rather than preaching, nagging. This is particularly very important when your children are young and they can understand the conversation. So I believe this principle will help you to have a clear boundary of consequences and allow your child to be more self-dependent and more self-driven. And they can also, these young people, you can impose more control as they grow older, showing them the consequences. Because sometimes you will see children become rebellious and they show their behavior because at young age they are not aware of the consequences and you have not set the boundaries. So this varies family to family. Some families are very strict, some families are very liberal. Perhaps even more important than boundaries is the reinforcement, means putting into action. Wherever we set boundaries, we need to enforce it with action, not words. Instead of lecturing, children need to know that we will act when we violate this boundary, the consequence will be this. For example, if our child doesn't come for lunch, we have called so many times, rather than shouting, nagging, the child knows that I will not get lunch. And we get angry because we drain out or ventilate or on the child by pleading, lecturing, shouting. So instead, we can use this energy for having the conversation of consequences so that the child is able to choose and the child can decide for his own self. The point is, instead of just nagging, shouting or getting angry on the child, take some action so that the child learns that this is, if I make this choice, this will be the consequence. And he or she learns by his own making choices and decision making, because this is making as a skill. I have observed that people don't have this muscle, and when it is money decision making, oh God, because in the childhood people were making our choices and decisions. Do you agree with this? So as adults, we make good choices because we know the consequences, and we teach the same to the children. Through this principle, we establish the follow through with consequences a little step by step. So we teach them by setting a limitation or structure for our own children when they behave outside of the structure. We must not shout and yell or nag or irritate the child, but mild action. Remember, again mild action. You don't have to be just angry, just take action. And just for the child, knowing the consequences, he will learn to take responsibility of his own choices.